Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English. Your host for today, Ivan Pineda, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Let's start the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today we have quite the episode to break down everything that went wrong in yesterday's match against Leon, and then we're going to be looking up ahead to the game on Saturday against Atlas and everything in between. But as always, let me introduce tonight's co-host, New York's very own AJ and Christian Rosendo. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Doing okay, just currently in pain because after everything that's happening with America and America Femenine, it's not a good time. So that's how I'm currently feeling.
A lot of pain, lots and lots of pain. But Christian, tell me, how are you doing after such a terrible loss to Leon yesterday?
Same boat as AJ. First off, I just want to say hope everyone's doing well. I hope AJ and Ivan, you guys are doing well. Make sure to stay safe, guys. There's it's a lot of scary stuff going on in the world. But in regards to America, yes, AJ, I agree with you. There's a lot of pain on my side, and it should be an interesting episode as we break everything down.
Lots and lots to talk about. We're going to be obviously recapping everything that went wrong and some of the things that actually went right for America in this game against Leon. We'll look ahead into what this Atlas game is going to look like for America. We'll get you guys a little bit of injury updates, as we do know that we have lost Nicolas Benedetti for quite some time, and everything in between. Hashtag Fuera Piojo. Well, we'll talk about that as well in just a little bit. But all right, gentlemen, might as well just start where we left off last week. America versus Leon. Leon versus America played on neutral territory, as this one was played in Aguascalientes in El Estadio Victoria. We came into this one a little bit skeptical about how this team was going to line up. We thought, we had fingers crossed that not just Cáceres was going to be ready to play in the center back spot, but also Emmanuel Aguilera, which actually didn't actually happen. Obviously, we did get one of the Cáceres at center back, but it's not the one we wanted.
Right.
And we'll talk a little bit about how that kind of definitely hinged us in the back, because I think playing one center defensive mid and one left back as your two center backs, well, that was just asking for trouble, especially when you had a youngster like Ramon Juarez on the bench who probably would have done a better job than either one of those two. But we'll get into that in just a moment. Gentlemen, game probably doesn't go exactly how we expected. You know, America ends up losing 3-2, especially after the first half we had. We thought this game could have been a whole different story. But at the end of the day, how are you guys walking out of this, you know, knowing with everything, injuries, you know, the lack of playing time that we've had because we obviously had this international break? What are your final thoughts on this one?
Who wants to start things off? You want to start, Christian?
No, you can go, AJ.
I just speechless, really. I'm not understanding to how, you know, we were gaining momentum in that first half with the goals that we were scoring, and then just seemed like the second half was just a complete different story in this case. Like countless errors coming from the defense and goalkeeping. It's just terrible. I felt like midfielders are trying to do their very best that they can, which I mentioned from the last podcast episode where I was like the midfields have to come up big along with our forwards, but it just seems like in this case, it's just the defense is just really a bad problem. With me personally, just like having players like Luis Reyes, who's originally left back playing as a center back, and then Santiago Cáceres, who's a center defensive mid, as you mentioned, playing as a center back, that sounds like a recipe for disaster at that point. It just seems like throughout that entire match, it just seemed like the defense was not really getting a break. Didn't really help out as well that Oscar Jimenez was having a bad time in goalkeeping, just making simple mistakes that I felt like he really shouldn't be making. But just all in all, it was just a really tough time for our America, and especially with the loss of Nicolas Benedetti with the injury that he received as well, also really didn't help out America's case in this entire match.
I'm blaming AJ for this one, because if you go back to the episode, he was like, "Oh, Oscar Jimenez is yet to lose a game," and I was like, "AJ, don't be salándonos." And what happened? Oh, AJ, this is why you don't bring up those stats.
Let's add insult to injury. I said it was going to be 3-2 this game. It was 3-2. The problem, Leon scored 3 and America scored 2. So
Christian, your take.
Um, disappointed. Throughout everything, injuries, formation errors, lineup errors, player errors. I felt that we probably could have walked away with the win on this. The key in this game was finishing. And for being the best offense in the league, our finishing, especially in the first 10 minutes of the match, was not there, and that seriously could have probably made or break this game. If you could have gotten maybe a quick goal in the first half. I even mean you stress how very important it is for Mexico to get off to a good start, and what better to get off to a good start and the goal. You saw the immense pressure that we had on Leon. They really didn't know what to do. They were scrambling, really making a lot of turnovers. Very unlikely of them. And when they do play like that, you have to take advantage. And America just didn't have it in them to take advantage. And that was really the key because, in two, I guess, they were good plays by Leon. All credit to them. But it's plays that, it kind of came by a little bit of luck and a little bit mispositioning by one of the center backs. That same exact goal, identical, kind of just slotted in. But, like I said, the difference, though, they didn't have much chances. The difference was they finished theirs and we didn't.
Yeah, I think we had a little bit more shots on the night. Well, I mean, clear ones, and I know they had a couple of shots themselves. Some of them weren't on target, others were. But I think you mentioned it right, Christian. The fact that we didn't capitalize on these kind of early opportunities, and when we knew that they were gold. We were finding gold in these situations, and where we know that Leon is a team that typically doesn't make these type of mistakes. Obviously, they're the best defensive side in the league. So for you to come up and find these opportunities, you really need to put it away. I think the first one where Venus gets that one-on-one, needs to put that away. There's no reason why no reason why Henry should try to finish that himself. Venus just took a really heavy touch, and that's a bit disappointing coming from a guy that we know that has the capability of being, like we mentioned, possibly, a double digits goal scorer in the league for us, but just hasn't really taken his chances. And then, of course, I don't know how much that first opportunity that he missed kind of ended up playing in the back of his head. I mean, he still had a really good game. I think he was at least one of the outstanding players on the pitch for us, but I mean, like you mentioned, Christian, very disappointing in everything that just kind of happened because of this game. But okay, gentlemen, talk to me a little bit more about this lineup, because Christian, you predicted that Emmanuel Aguilar and Cáceres was going to be playing. That wasn't the case. We thought that was going to be the starting 11 center back duo partnership, but it looks like they weren't 100% ready to go. And we know America might as well not take your chances with everything going on in the injury department. So then again, we had Santi Cáceres and Luis Reyes playing at center back. Gentlemen, thoughts on that?
Just never again, please. I beg of you. It's looking like a case compared to America Femenil where Cuellar is like experimenting, and now since like Piojo is like, I clearly have players that can play those positions, but it's like, you know what? Nah, let me just put a center defensive mid and a left back there. What's the worst possible thing that can happen? And that game is just a clear example of what can happen. As Christian mentioned before, mispositioning. It seems like as a Luis Reyes was playing as a left back, and I'm like, no, that's where Luis Fuentes is at. You don't got to worry about that. He just goes right over there with them. I don't know why. And then, Santiago Cáceres, clearly center defensive mid, it seemed like he's just not really grasping that position. He just looks really uncomfortable. It's one of those cases where it's just like, I just want to be back in my normal position again. But given the circumstance of what's going on with America, he just has to play there. So it's just really bad. Just with this kind of defense, if this is how it's going to be, which I'm pretty sure it's not, because we're going to have Emmanuel Aguilera and Sebastian Cáceres back. I just really hope he just doesn't repeat something like this again. And just please, we had Ramon Juarez. He is a center back. You could have just put him right in there. I don't know what was going through Piojo's head throughout that time where he's like, nah, let me just bench him. The kid that you want, that you put in for 3 Clásicos, and then for a match like this, it's like, yeah, I don't want to put him in. Why? I don't know.
It's an interesting one. Really, really interesting one. What do you think? Why do you think Ramon Juarez doesn't play, Christian?
I think we all know Piojo's kind of not a vendetta, but I guess his not willingness to play young players, but that's the thing that doesn't make sense though, because you sub him in the Clásico, you sub him in against Cruz Azul, and you sit him on the bench against Leon when we know we don't have any center backs. It's just a very perplexed situation. I really hope that we get an answer to why Ramon Juarez didn't start, because if you're gonna put him in two high pressure situations, and the kid reacted well in both of them, why wouldn't you give him the chance to prove himself as a starter against Leon? Granted, I would say Leon's probably the better team of Chivas and Cruz Azul, but it's not the same pressure as playing a Clásico Nacional than a Clásico Joven. Getting subbed in, with being a little bit out of rhythm and stuff, and the kid held his own in those two matches. So it's one of those things where you look at the coach, and it's his fault. It's his fault that he got that defensive line wrong. Yes, I know his injuries, but you have a very capable young center back waiting for his opportunity. This was his opportunity, and for you to kind of deny him of that, putting us in a hole. Knowing the players that Leon has, how explosive they can be, it's definitely not a good look going forward.
It definitely wasn't. But I mean, it was the case that we had to work with what we had at the moment. And I think Ramon Juarez would have been the perfect plug in. But it wouldn't have solved the defensive issue necessarily, because then you're missing another center back in that spot. And it's either you play Santi Cáceres or you end up playing Luis Reyes in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of them proved to be a huge liability. And we'll get to it in just a little bit, because in those two goals where Leon scored twice on us, same play, technically had three plays that were similar. Just in the second one they didn't get a chance to shoot, but Luis Reyes gets caught flat-footed. Santi Cáceres gets off position because he's not in line. He's not in line with the center back partnership, so he's leaving a gap for them to go in there. So there's no offside. So I think even if you put Ramon Juarez in that position, you're still exposed. And I think Leon still do what they did to us.
I mean,
even if you have Juarez in there,
probably not to that extent. I think with Juarez there, even though he is very young, to me, I think AJ can agree with me. He seems a little bit mature in the sense where I think he knows where to position himself. And if you had to give me either or, I probably take Santi Cáceres over Luis Reyes, only because Cáceres is kind of more of a central player, and him being a center defensive mid. Luis Reyes is a completely different position. Like, center back and left back are completely two different things. At least with center mids, sometimes you're forced to actually drop back into the line. So you kind of have somewhat of a familiarity, not 100% obviously, but you get Ramon Juarez and then next to you, and then you kind of play off him a little bit. Like I said, though, young, not really much experience, but he seems like he can hold his own, and you just kind of have to play a child off of that. And honestly, Ivan, I think I disagree with you saying that Leon would have done the same exact thing. I don't think maybe that first goal does happen, but that same mistake doesn't happen twice, though, in my opinion.
I don't know. I think it does, because if you put, obviously we're both saying that Reyes would be the one that would be taken off the lineup, and you put Juarez in. I think Juarez bites early as well. I think he tries to go, and I think Leon find a way to move him up, and Santi Cáceres still just thinking to himself, "Oh, I'm just good right here. Like, this is my position. I don't got to do anything." He doesn't even look like he's just in rhythm with the game. He looks slow, Santi. He looks just completely just not there 100%. Granted, I don't think we've ever seen a Santi at 100% in an America jersey, so it's kind of hard to tell what that looks like. But I think, I think Leon still find a way, because you have a young, kind of inexperienced center back in a game like this. Because granted, he played a good game against Chivas when he came in. He played a good game against Cruz Azul. He played a good, I wouldn't say a really good game against Pumas, because he was playing right back, but he had some minutes there. I think overall we would have been in the same position if we would have had two center backs, though. Like, maybe, I don't know, one that's out on loan right now at Toluca. Maybe we probably have a much better chance, because I think as a natural center back, one of the things that you're kind of poised to do is, okay, am I in a position that I'm kind of deliberately leaving an offside position kind of open for my opposition to kind of run and expose? So the fact that Santi doesn't really have that in the back of his head, he's just kind of more like, as a center defensive mid, I'll drop back as far as I can, so that way I'm not beaten by the speed. I think that's what kind of really deprived Santi from really giving us a good game in the center back position. But let's talk a little bit more about this game in a sense as a whole. We've talked a little bit about individual performances that we didn't like. We probably could go a little bit longer on other players, but we mentioned the promising start for America. Get a couple of shots in, one ends up hitting the post. Really, really good chances. We don't take them. And then, like you mentioned, Christian, we let Leon sit and kind of get comfortable with the ball, which is the one thing you cannot let Leon do, right? Once they get the rhythm in, then good luck trying to stop him from there, right? So they went in and they started getting the rhythm in. They started doing their passes, started getting some really good shots away, and then they scored that goal. What was your thoughts on that goal? Aside from obviously both center backs being caught out, what did you make of that goal? Do you think there was a better way to stop that prior to it, or really what was your thoughts on it?
I mean, there's nothing really much to say other than that. The Luis is getting caught. I think Oscar did what he needed to do, was kind of try to make the goal a little bit smaller than what it needs to be. It's just a good shot by Navarro, honestly. Just tucked it in right there. It's perfect. That's also something we kind of get without playing a CDM as well. That space is kind of left unpressured, I guess, in a sense. And you're allowing players, creative players like Ramirez to kind of slot that in, and he did it numerous times. It just wasn't with that goal. He did on the second goal, and like you said, he did on another time where they didn't really get a chance to shoot, but it still happened though. So definitely that kind of center defensive presence, center defensive mid presence was missing for us, and it allowed for chances like this to be created. But other than that, though, I think it's just a good goal by them.
You know what frustrated me the most? That shot was very, very well placed, but it wasn't going at like super fast pace.
It doesn't need to be.
That if a natural center back's there, they at least try to slide for that ball. Even if you end up putting it in the back of the net, like at least you put that effort. Santi Cazorla was just like, oh, it's going in.
No, yeah, I understand that, but sometimes a shot doesn't have to be as powerful.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that there was no effort from like Santi to even try, because I think if he just slides, maybe something happens, something, but not even that effort, which was what was frustrating me the whole time. But I think the resilience of America to go and come back into this game to get the goal, AJ, and then to get another one, almost at the end of the first half, and then of course that unfortunate accident that leads to Benedetti breaking into tears and having to be rushed out by the little medical, what is it, golf cart, I would say. Yeah, it's a golf cart. Yeah, it shows some really good resilience from this team. And I think once you saw that, okay, this team was able to come back and get 2 goals, 2 really good goals, maybe we have something here. Do you agree, AJ, that was kind of the, I don't know, mentality of what a lot of us thought?
I really thought that was the case because, good goal by Navarro. Then at the next thing, you have to then think to yourself, like, okay, how are we going to get back at this game? Obviously score a goal, but it's like, yeah, but in what way we could, break that Leon defense to get an opportunity. We saw from the amazing header from Cordova was really well. And then the next goal from Henry Martin 5 minutes later. So it's like, okay, good. We got ourselves back to the game, but then it's Emila. Let's continue attacking. Let's not give Leon a break, which is exactly what we did right there. But then as soon as that injury happened, maybe could have had a factor in there to think that maybe it might have affected the players in some way, because that's, one of the crucial players in this America side. So then, into injury time, and in the 48th minute, João Menezes happened to get a goal, and then everything is back to square one at that point. So then it's just one of those instances now having to head into the second half just saying, okay, let's try to get something going. But then from the 52nd minute when Chapo Montes scored, it seemed from there that America looked kind of hopeless throughout the second half. It just felt they're just having problems just trying to get anything going from there, concerned that the defense was just constantly getting attacked and just was a good time. But early on in the first half, that's something I like to see from America more, like the decisions that we had. We're not going to give up immediately, whether it's like a real early goal on, whether it can be like in the first opening minutes of the match, or towards the very end of the first half. I just liked seeing how America, as soon as they got the goal, they were going right at it, and they just didn't want to stop until they can get themselves a comfortable lead.
Christian, I know it seemed like you were eager to jump into that.
First of all, let's backtrack a little bit. I think that was probably one of the better Jorge Sanchez games. I think he was probably the only one on that line who had, I guess, a semi-decent game. That's, I think, something good going forward. Talking about that assist, I think that was a beautifully placed cross off of Cordoba, who heads it perfectly. That's how you're supposed to head a ball. For anyone, trying to, learn how to do that. That's how you play. That's how you head a ball.
But you have to have just as equal of amount of long hair as Cordoba, or else the dynamic or the physics
I used to
doesn't
have,
work.
I used to have that.
Yeah, but it was great. Then going to the second goal. Like you said though, AJ, we found our way back into the game, and now it's time to build on it. And that's exactly what we did. The pressure resumed, Ivan. Something me and you love to see. Obviously great pressure by Benedetti to kind of force errors. And then Henry just slotting it in. Unfortunately comes with the cost that Benedetti suffered an injury. But after all of that, you still give up a goal in injury time, and in the same exact way you give up the first. And I think that's what really frustrated me, frustrated the whole fan base, frustrated the players, because you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, you know what, we're gonna close out the half in a lead. Let's go to the locker room. Let's talk about what we can build up upon. But no, you're gonna go into the locker room with the tied. And in the same fashion that the first goal was scored, and it's like the team didn't learn from the first time. That's terrible overall, from the D line to the goalie. I think that was that goal should have never happened. And just going from that, I think from that moment, I think America just deflated and just couldn't find an answer after that. After that second goal by John Meneses, that was it. America just couldn't find their way back into the game,
which is a very concerning part because there's still 45 minutes left in that
exactly.
game. But let's backtrack just a little bit more, like you said, Christian, and let's go to that goal that is unfortunately causing a Nicolas Benedetti injury. Here's my question to the both of you and to everyone listening right now. Would you rather not have scored that goal and not lose Benedetti, or still score that goal and see how the match played out at that moment when we're winning 2-1? When we're winning, we already know the end result. We all know what that answer would be at this point. But at that moment, when America just scores that goal, would you have rather have, taken it back and say, okay, I would have rather we not score that goal and not lose Benedetti? Or in that moment, okay, we at least got the goal even though we lost Benedetti?
Honestly, for right now, I think I'd probably take the goal back. Benedetti is not on the pitch anymore, and there is zero creativity coming from anybody on this team. You saw Leo Suarez try to do it in the second half, but the guy's out of rhythm. The guy really doesn't have coherence with the squad. He's all over the place, which I love his effort. But let's be honest, though, he really didn't do much. Going forward and trying to create chances, it's a little bit sloppy. No coordination. At least Benedetti, he kind of has that creative gene in him. He was probably the only one besides maybe Viñas and Henry trying to do something up top. And maybe at that moment, maybe Meneses doesn't score that goal. Maybe it's just 1-1 going into the second half, but at least you still have Benedetti, and I think you could probably create build off of that, create off of that. But unfortunately, it's not the case. So for me, I think I take that goal back and keep Benedetti.
AJ?
I'm looking right back at it, but it's just it's making me think of if this happened, what said events might have happened, or if said event did not happen, what the game continued on to go the way it was going. For this kid, I feel like I wanted that goal to happen. It just seemed really unfortunate for Benedetti to then suffer the injury at that point, because we saw that he was then reaching his hand towards the knees, and something might have happened. I will take that goal. Just for me personally, just in that case, it's just really unfortunate that Benedetti happened to just catch the injury at that point with the action that he did. So I would have honestly just taken that goal.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. I do wonder what the rest of our listeners have to say in regards to that question. But why I asked that question was because I allude to this next. So America gets the goal. and everyone kind of just celebrates for a moment, but then automatically that celebration is completely gone. Like I haven't seen something just go from all the way high to all the way low in just a matter of seconds. Like they knew they lost one of their most creative and one of the best players on the pitch, and I think that's what did the team. And I think that's why you saw Leon get right back into it. I think that's why you saw Leon score the same goal that they scored. We look back at every single game that America has had where we lose a player, whether it's down to a red card, whether it's down to a into an injury. I mean, I'll take you back to that game against Monterrey where we lose Bruno Valdez, and you know that it's a bad injury, and you just don't see the team ever recover from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to this Benedetti, your teammate, one of the most beloved players on that field, because he just looks like he just has a really good vibe and gets along with everyone. But you see him crying and yelling, and you see him just kind of just torn down. I think as a team, you just never rebuilt from that. Yeah. And I don't know what was said in the locker room, and I wish that there was a way to rally back into this, but I think the fact that they ended up conceding right before halftime, I think that's what did them even more. Definitely. And I think just some players just didn't recuperate from that morale hit. And then of course, I mean, we saw what happened in the second half. America just wasn't the same mistake. Some defensive mistakes again lead to that third Leon goal. Why is Luis Reyes trying to slide in that situation? I don't really understand. And of course, just the what was it, Mena slots it right back into the box, and then of course Montes just finishes it off easily. It was a poor night. It was a poor night from everyone. Like I mentioned, there was only a few candidates that I think walk away with this and say, you know what, I had a pretty good game. I think George is one of them. George had a pretty good game. Viñas, I think, looked exceptional. I mean, the guy's a tank. Guy was being hit left, right, and
hitting
center.
him left and right, yeah.
And he was never off his game.
Mm-hmm. Which is good. It's good to see that in a player who knows that the other team's strategy is to kind of slow him down with these little tiny fouls, little annoying fouls, and for him to kind of just keep his head in the game and try to, motivate and create and, do what Viñas does. It's good to see that in a player. Unfortunately, it doesn't end, in a winning result for us, but it's still to see a strong mentality from a player like that.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to next, is that there was some promising things to take away from this game, even though maybe our heads were very, very clouded by the fact that we ended up losing a game and where we thought we could have ended up winning. I think you look at the fact that Viñas, it looks like he just hasn't lost a beat. He's looking better. All he needs to is just he if he breaks that duck, if he gets a goal, which he did it against Puma, so I don't really wouldn't call it a duck because it's only one game match where you haven't scored. But I think if you can find the back of the net more consistently, and if he can continue to do what he's doing, and I mean, he's taking on defenders left, right, and center, looking like he's got 4-star skill moves on FIFA. I mean, the guy looks impressive, right? I think that's one takeaway. George is another good takeaway as well. If he can continue that good run of form, and if he can continue just elevating his game the way that he did in that match, I think we're going to see a very, very good right-hand side once we can figure out who in the world is going to be our right mid. And then I think the fact that there was some resilience going forward, even in situations where we thought, okay, well, we're down a goal again, here we go. But the fact that at least from their half and onwards, we look like we can make stuff happen. On our side of the pitch, that's where we got to really worry because, of course, we have really no defense.
Story of all season.
It has been the story of all season. And I think that at the end of the day, there's very little hope to grasp onto from this match. But I think there's some that we can definitely walk away with and say, okay, there's something here. At least there's something.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I guess just knowing that offensively we can hang with anyone in the league is a good sign. It means that we'll almost be competitive when it comes to, putting up numbers on that scoreboard. It's just, we're not going to be title contenders until we figure out this defensive problem. I know injuries are a thing. I know injuries have been haunting us this whole season, not letting us have a stable back line. I understand that, but we're 15 weeks deep, and the fact that we don't have a clue of how to play this game defensively, a clue on how to even come out of our zone, because there was numerous times in that game where Leon, pressured us hard, and it looked like we were about to give the ball away. If it wasn't for some miraculous touch or pass, that we escaped from some situations, that's a problem. I don't care who is on the pitch. The fact that you don't have an idea of how to kind of get out of your zone, no matter who's on the pitch, is a problem to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think it is a big problem. Defensively, we're leaking goals more than we've ever had before. I think you don't go into a game thinking maybe this one will be the one where we keep a clean sheet. I think this is where you're like, okay, as long as we only concede one, we should be able to get something out of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got to fix that, because I think whilst goals wins games, I think defense wins championships.
Correct.
And we don't have that
Mm-hmm.
at all. And it's a crazy thing. And Christian, you'll give us a little bit more of an update whether or not Aguilera and Cáceres are good to go for Saturday. But now you're just talking about what, 3 games left, if I'm not mistaken.
Atlas Saturday,
Tigres
next, and then Juarez.
Juarez. 3 games left. And in those 3 games, we'll probably get Cáceres back and Aguilera back for sure, and that solves the center back partnership. Now, who's going to be that left back? Fuentes looks like he's okay, but he doesn't fill me with much confidence. It's not like Reyes is doing any better at all. And then, of course, you have the situation with the goalkeeper with, Ochoa. Will he be ready for that Juarez game, or is he going to have to start from Liguilla? And, what is being out for so long due to a player, especially at his age. So I would really cross my fingers. I don't think we'll have him for the Tigres game, but I would like to have him back for the Juarez game. I think he needs at least 1 game. This defense needs 1 game together before we start the Liguilla to really try to blend and say, okay, let's try to get something here. But it's just, I don't know. It's a tricky situation at America, because I think everyone makes valid points. From the people that are criticizing Piojo, to the people that are criticizing the players, to the people that are criticizing the fact that America has been hindered with all these injuries. I think they all stack up together and say, okay, they're all valid points, but none of these should be going on, is the situation at the bottom line, right? It's like, I don't think there's one other team right now in the world, let alone Liga MX, in the world that is dealing with the issues that we're dealing with.
Real Madrid.
No, they're not, because their season just started, so you don't know that they're going to be in the same position. Injury problems. You're just dealing with injury problems, but you're not dealing with the fact that is Zidane about to is Fuera Zidane trending over in Madrid?
Something like that. Yeah, we can't score a goal to save our damn lives,
but America can.
America can, yes, I know.
So America can beat Real Madrid.
It's so flip-flop, because Madrid can defend, but we can't score. And here's the difference: we can't defend, but we can score. So I propose something. I think we ship over Cordova, Henry, and Viñas. We'll get Benzema, Vinicius, and then
dude, I'll take that. I don't know why you think they wouldn't make that happen here in the Liga.
I'm down to make that, because these players seem to know how to score, and the players I just mentioned, they just have time struggling. So let's make it happen then.
Okay. Huge tangent and huge side note, and we'll get right back on course after this question. I promise to everyone that's listening to this, but if you can, if from your favorite European team, if you could bring in 1 player from that team into America, who would it be? Christian, go.
I don't know. That's a good question. Probably Sergio Ramos, only because whenever he's defensively there, the captain, Madrid plays completely different. He is the heart, blood, and soul of that team. And I think he could probably instill some sort of defensive capability into these players.
Okay, I like it. AJ?
I thought of forwards immediately, and I feel like forwards is not the problem, but you did say any player. I don't know, Pipa Benedetto. I'd bring him back. Good. I would definitely bring him back.
He's not in Arsenal. This is not your favorite team.
Oh, me. You said, any European team. I'd say if you're.
I said your favorite European team.
Okay.
I don't want anyone on Arsenal.
Shut up.
I take Aubameyang, dude.
Wow.
I take Aubameyang.
Nah, I'm good.
Wow. Okay. I mean, sure, Aubameyang. I'd like him. Homie could just score goals for us left and right. He could actually hit double figures, which I think something no one at America as a forward has probably done since Chutro. So hey, that's guaranteed double figures right there at
Nah, but
that
we
point.
score already though. So
So Christian says as defender, AJ says a forward. I am bringing in Juan Mata. Let's go.
oh my goodness, you're a United fan. I don't think you should be a part of this
You shouldn't
conversation.
talk.
Yeah,
Stop.
for real. You know what? Let's just get back on
says
point.
the team that beat PSG. All right, but yeah, we're completely getting off track here. But let me know in the comment section down below, guys, or over on Twitter, who would you guys bring from your favorite European team to America if and when that could be possible? Okay, back to this. So obviously, too many things going on in America to actually just maybe dial on and say it's one thing. I think there's a lot of factors that contribute into why this team is as bad as it is. But here is my question to you two gentlemen and to everyone listening. With everything that's been going on, with everything that's been happening with the club, we sit in 5th place. Do you think that's still a promising position for us?
No,
Mm-mm.
because we shouldn't be in 5th place. We should be top 3. If you go back to all the games, there are certain games where we kind of let slip. There's about a good maybe 6 to 7 points there that I think make the difference for us. And no, 5th place is not acceptable. It's not promising, and honestly, it's looking like we're probably going to stay there for the rest of the season, which is not a good thing because then we have to play a whole extra round of playoffs, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I do want to read a couple of comments here that from AP Junior saying I feel like the youth squad should get a chance in the first team.
Not with this coach.
Yeah, not with this coach. It's not gonna happen. But
They could
pretty good shout.
fill the bench up. They'll fill the bench up and just warm them
They
up.
have been
That's
filling
the
the
best they're
bench
gonna. That's the best they're gonna do. It's looking like at this rate, you try to bring them. It's gonna look like a preseason match where all you see on that bench is just youngsters, and they will not. Well, if it's a preseason, they'll play. League, nah. Copa MX, even doubtful because there's points where Piojo will still put his best team possible in the first round. I'm like, homie, it's a Copa MX. What are you doing? Actually use the youngsters. He's like, no. I'm like, okay. So be it done.
Trophies are trophies. And our good beloved friend Miss Cari Torres saying hi guys. We still friends? I don't know. That depends.
We were never friends.
Depends, Cari.
Yeah, we were never friends. So
we went from friends to just being colleagues after that match. No, Cari, shout out to you guys and over on the Lions Den podcast. You guys won. You guys beat us fair and square. I think at the end of the day, America didn't do their job, and that's what happens. So, I mean, we've talked about this game pretty long enough. Anything else to add on before we kind of touch up a really big subject, and then we'll jump onto the Atlas game?
I think Giovanni needed to do better in this game.
I agree with you. But I don't think he had the worst of games either.
No, he had a pretty bad game, honestly, in my opinion. His chance creation was not there. His passing wasn't fine. There's a couple opportunities where he kind of just shanked the ball, and he could have scored a goal exactly like the one he did against Chivas and completely destroyed that ball, which I don't know what the hell he was doing, but I don't know. To me, he seemed out of position, out of it. I don't know. I think he needs to do better. I hope he starts on Saturday because I think one game doesn't define you for what you've been doing these past couple of weeks, but he needs to pick it up, and I hope he does start and gives us a good performance against Atlas.
I think that's exactly the game that Gio needs to just completely go haywire and score
Yeah, of course.
another goal. Because I thought he had a good game against Chivas, and obviously I think he had a pretty good game against Cruz Azul. Maybe not the best of games against Pumas, but you're right. This Leon game was definitely by far the worst out of the four. But let's move on into one last touchy subject before we close this one out, and that is the hashtag Fuera Piojo. We talked about this, and a lot of us were very heated after the game. And granted, it's only been 24 hours since the match even started, not even ended. But how are we feeling, gentlemen? I know we talked a little bit about this, and you both were, unsurprisingly, on the side of hashtag Fuera Piojo. One, how do you guys jump to that conclusion? And two, is it really time for Piojo Herrera to just step out? Not even step out, but maybe be replaced at this point, because I don't think he will willingly step down. But is it really time for Piojo to just part ways with America?
Naja, you can go first.
It's like the case of it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of case. There's a time where we're having a good run. Bio's just out there celebrating with this team, lifting up the team's morale with the celebrations, which is what I like to see. But then when we get on a bad streak of games, he would pretty much just go to the referee every single time, saying like, "What was that? Why are you not making the calls?" And it seems like he's just never looking at the players like to blame at times. It seems it's one of those cases he just doesn't talk to the players and make it feel like maybe it's actually my players. It's not the referee's fault because there's countless instances where I feel like right after the match ends or halftime, he's just arguing with the ref every single time, which we saw at the end of the Leon match. It's just the thing. It's like I'm not understanding what's going on with Biojo. I feel like he's making some lineup errors, as Christian has mentioned, where it feels like you could definitely be using other players to put in that position, but it seems like he doesn't want to. Then I feel like just like with the substitutions at times, like we see it doesn't make sense. We have players clearly available on the bench that I feel they could definitely make an impact, but they're never seeing the light of day in a match. And I'm just like, so what are we going to do with it? And to consider the fact that I feel like we've given Piojo a 4-year contract extension, if I'm not mistaken, it's making us wonder, now do you think that's a big mistake? And I don't know. It's just one of those things I feel like with Bill, I feel like his time. I just concerned that he just got he got the contract this year. I feel like his time is running up already. I feel like he's really testing the patience of America fans and including me, because it's just ridiculous like how America has been performing this season under him.
The only thing I would make in regards to that argument is, AJ, we don't know that the players aren't getting an earful from him in the locker rooms. We don't get that kind of information. And who's to say that he doesn't go and just start going haywire on them at the end of the match, the same way he did against the ref? We don't know that. That's the only argument I would make to your to what you were saying in regards to the fuera Piojo. But Christian, you were once on my side of let's give Piojo the benefit of the doubt. Looks like that benefit of the doubt's definitely gone out the window for you. What's changed?
A lot of things. Number one, that video that we've seen circulating across the internet, him going with Cesar Ramos and just arguing. I think that was kind of the breaking point. There's no need for that. The match is over. What's gonna happen if you go argue with him? Is the score gonna change? No, right? Okay. So that's number one. Number two, there's no self-criticism from him at all. He goes in a press conference, he says his team played well. We just spent 42 minutes saying otherwise. He just seems like his excuse right now is he doesn't have his full squad, which granted, yes, he doesn't. And yes, we do have to give him credit for kind of putting us in this position where we are with the limited squad that we've had all year. So there is respect for him on that front. But also in the past, I guess you say several weeks, there's been a lot of just changes in the lineup where we don't agree. There's players that need to be in that are not. The substitutions are a mess this whole season. I can count maybe 2 games, 3 games where he had a good game in terms of, I guess, coaching and tactics and substitution and all that. Maybe 2 or 3 games out of the whole year. And his play style. If you guys can tell me what the play style is, I'll listen to you, but I can probably bet all my money that we don't have a play style. It's just give the ball to one of our players, Henry Viñas, Cordova, Benedetti, and run with it. And let's see what happens out of it. Get away from a defender and take a space, and let's see what happens. We don't have a set style. Teams aren't scared of us anymore. Teams can break us down. We'll try to attempt to kind of limit us. It's happened before. Yes, we still score goals, but we leak a lot of them. And the fact that it's 15 weeks in and he still doesn't have a defensive system in place where defensive players can understand and when plugged in can do a semi-decent job is worrying. It's a lot of things, and definitely the lack of self-criticism is definitely a big problem for me.
Well, it's a big problem for you. It's a big problem for everyone in the Americanista community, and probably is something that will be the downfall of Piojo if this ever does come to fruition. But Looks like the rest of the league is falling behind the Fuera Piojo as our beloved friend Ms. Cari Torres joins in the conversation, says Fuera Piojo times 100%, though I think that's a little bit of a biased opinion since we do know that Cari is very, very anti-Piojo. But let me put you guys in my position, right? And I'm not here to change you guys' mind because at the end of the day, Piojo is going to stay our manager for the rest of the season. And I promise you, unless Tata Martino gets sacked, there's no way that he's leaving America anytime soon. So we know and we understand that you're right, Christian. You make a very, very good point. He, guess Cari didn't really like that, but you make a really good point. Piojo does not have a set playing style, and maybe he's tried to implement something here and there, just hasn't worked, and maybe he's still trying to figure it out. But maybe he can't implement the style that he has because one, he doesn't have the players at his disposal because half of the squad is injured, and two, whenever they do come back, it's a little bit too late into the season to try to implement a playing style. Like you just mentioned, Christian, we're 15 weeks into the league. There's no implementing styles at this point. Like you should have one by now, but we don't. And I'm not gonna say it's all because the fact that we've just had injured players, but I do think a big majority of it is because of that. Another part does have to fall on Piojo and say, okay, you have to just work with what you have at some point. And I think he has. You know, we mentioned a very good points position to be in 5th place with everything that's been surrounding this club. I think it's a really, really good position to be in. But like you mentioned, this is America. Should not be in that position, especially with this new Liga format. That's the one place you don't want to be in. You want to be in the top 4, at least in the top 4. If not, then you always got to be fighting for those top 3 spots. But I think Piojo has done enough to get us through the line, over the line. We just came back from, I won't say last season because it got canceled, but the season prior to that, we just came off a final in a rebuilding process. We had lost a couple very, very important players. We brought in some players very last minute, and Piojo made it work. We got to a final. What happened in that final happened in the final. We know what that end result was, but at least he got us over the line in that sense. Now he's trying to do it again here. And I mentioned to you guys, if at the end of the day we end up going again to another final, let's say we don't lift it. I'm going to say that it's a fracaso because at the end of the day it is. But it merits the fact that with everything that was going on, he got us back into that position. And I think, though, whilst we're all ready to just say, yes, fuera Piojo, fuera Piojo, fuera Piojo, it's too early in the season and not too early, excuse me. It's too late into the season to just be like, okay, we got to sack our manager. We got to back him at least until this end of this semester. And then we could start talking about possible replacements, whether he should leave. I think at this point, we're better off criticizing whether or not the training staff is doing their job, because again, Gibber is still yet to come out with any data pointing that he's not at fault. Like there's I think bigger things here to talk about than just the hashtag Fuera Piojo, but we know it's going to continue trending. We know it's going to be a thing. And there are some of us, like myself, who still back Piojo and say, I think at the end of the day, if he has the players that he wants, and if they can stay healthy for a full semester, I'm not even talking a full soccer season, just a full semester, we can see the best of America out of them. Because he can get the best out of them, and he can get the best out of them playing for an America. So I think at that point we should at least be okay. Let's see where this following season takes us, when he and if he has very good, capable players. And I think, Christian, we mentioned it. Unfortunately, though, we were talking about the summer transfer window, but I think this one coming up in the January has to be a big one for America, because there's a lot of dead weight that you got to get rid of. A lot of dead weight. And I'm looking at some of those injury-prone players that would potentially have to leave the club. And we'll have to wait and see. But Piojo has to be one of those people who say, yes, they have to go, or no, they stay. But at the end of the day, though, we can say fuera Piojo all we want, but it's gonna be as it is. Piojo's gonna stay, and I don't know whether or not he should at this point right now. I think it's a bit premature to be talking about that because we haven't gotten to the end of the season.
All right. My rebuttal to that one, yes, I know. I think AJ knows. I think everyone that is kind of saying that Piojo should leave. We all know it's not going to happen right now. It's literally impossible. And we know that he's going to stay throughout the rest of the season and most likely though for the next season. That's fine. I understand. We just need change in his kind of in the system, in the style, whatever. Number two, you're comparing us to that title seat, well, to that final run we had where we kind of just kept coming back. You have to remember, at least we had a style of play. It wasn't the best one, but we still had one. It was bring it down the wings and then let them do whatever. We don't have that this year. We don't have that style of going down the wings and putting it in. Our style is give it to Cordova, Benedetti, Henry, Viñas, and then let them do what and let's see what happens. Has it created goals? Yes, it has created goals. But in games like this against a team very well orchestrated, very well ran, very well composed, we saw it doesn't work.
But here's my rebuttal to that, though. We would have Piojo. It wasn't Piojo's fault that we changed the style. His hand was forced because his one crucial player was taken from him. Whether or not America did the right thing with putting Renato Ibarra, letting him go on loan for Atlas, that's a whole different discussion. But Piojo said he wanted Ibarra to stay.
Correct.
Why? Because he had his system kind of centralized against because he was by far the best player we had. So you lose such a key figure in that starting 11 in that squad that now he's like, well, now I got to throw everything back to the drawing board and see what I can conjure up with. And he tried to take little pieces here and there. Yes, he's had time, which is very good criticism upon you guys.
He had 10 games last season, got cut off, and he had 15 weeks this season, and there is still no style of play. That's not an excuse anymore because you've had time to figure it out.
Yeah,
and you've had players to kind of help you formulate a system. You're not going to sit here and tell me that Cordova, Viñas, and Henry aren't essential to your plan.
Yeah, but they need to be fed, right? My biggest criticism would be that Cordova needs to do more because Viñas and Henry need to be served. It's not like they can pick up the ball from our half and start taking players on and making things happen the way that Ibarra would.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is that, okay, yes, you're right, Christian. He's had the time, he's got the weeks, and to some extent he's had the players, but out of everyone on that roster, how many people have played the most minutes and how many of them have played together and how many of them have been fit throughout that whole time? How many of them have not been taken away by, international duty?
Right. Good point. But at least have a system in place, though. If you're going to play with two strikers, let's just say two strikers, one cam and wingers, at least make that your system that make the play go through the cam. And if you want, let the cam distribute out to the wingers or kind of play a false nine. And have Viñas drop back a little bit and just feed him. At least have that system in place. So when one does go down, when one does go on international duty, the next player that comes in at least understands what is supposed to be done. If we don't have Ibarra in the final, Benedetti was like, okay, I know what I have to do. I have to try to take it down, dribble past one or two, and try to get across and or tray something. And for to some extent, it was going to work, unfortunately to Jorge Sanchez's mistake. But at least he knew what to do in regards to Renato Ibarra not being there.
Yeah, and I agree. Look, and I think at the end of the day, it's a really back and forth thing that we're just going to have. Because at the end of the day, you'll make,
right now.
you will make good points, and I think I can make some good counterpoints as well to this. At the end of the day, there's too much stuff circulating this one season to be like, yeah, it's all Piojo's fault. He needs to be out. Does he take a good chunk of this criticism? Of course he has to. He's the manager. He's the face of this team. I'd be surprised and I'd be very worried if he didn't. But at the end of the day, though, you just gotta have to roll with it and see. I mean, at the end of the day, though, Christian, if we walk away with a title, then what are we talking about in that podcast when we're recapping the season?
He listened to me. That's what happened.
Yeah, right. Because we went off like
he listened to me.
Viñas gets a shot in and he falls and rebounds off his stomach and rolls into the ball. The ball rolls into the back and then that's how we win the championship. I don't think that's how
we're gonna be like Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park. He's like, you crazy son of a bee, you did it again. it's like gonna be one of those things. It's like, wow, wait, he's done it. How? I don't know, but hey, we did it. I feel that's gonna be us in the end. We're just gonna we're just gonna be in awe and just kind of shocked to with everything just in our path, we were still able to make it all the way. And I feel like it's a case that I feel like, go on.
Here's my question though.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my question. If you put any other manager in Piojo's position right now with this team, if you put any other manager in America, do they make any better of the situation?
I mean, probably not. I think it's the same thing, honestly.
Right, and I think you're right though, Christian. We know that he's gonna stay regardless of what everything happens in this apertura. I think the clausura has to be the make or break because you have and it's gonna be tough because he doesn't have a big transfer window to deal. Well, I mean he does, but he doesn't have that big of a window before the season starts again, and he's got to get that all done. So even if America gets knocked out of the Liga earlier than we expect them to,
smack him.
Then then right away at that point he has all that time. It might just be a blessing in disguise. Get rid of all the dead weight, start moving forward. Get your crucial pieces in.
I don't think it's possible to do that, honestly. If we're talking about dead weight, there's about 6 or 7 players that need to leave in January then. And I doubt we get 6 or 7 players in January.
But if we can just sell 2 and bring in 2, I think that's an upgrade. Because then at least in the
100%.
summer,
it's a start.
At least in the summer, you already know.
It's just the players that, I guess, if you rank them from needing to leave the most and needing to leave, the least, I think that the players on the bottom would probably be the ones to go first, then the ones on top.
Yeah,
which is the bad part. So in a sense, it's not. It's an upgrade. I agree with you, but an upgrade to maybe potentially change the whole face of the squad, probably not.
No,
I feel like it's a thing where it's like the players like you mentioned, because they're the ones that are down there the most need to go. I see the ways the one that has the most negatives, while the ones from the least, they have negatives. Yeah, sure, but I feel there's some kind of positive they can have, even though I feel like they're gonna have to fix those mistakes if they feel like they're gonna have a chance to stay, or if not, then it's how is it inevitable? It's you're gonna go at some point. Just you're still there because whether you do something for the squad or you fill in a position that we're gonna need as a backup in case for the unforeseeable future.
I just want to read this out right now. Freddy Duran said the front office had plenty of time to replace Ibarra, Sergio Diaz, and Leo Suarez are not the answers for the team. The front office deserves to be blamed too, which I 100% agree with you, Freddie. The front office has a lot of a lot of stuff to be a lot of blame to be shared in that department as well.
Definitely. But that's for another. I think we can have a whole podcast on just the board, on just the board itself.
Because we're poor guys, okay? Let's face it, we're poor.
I'm sorry I know we're rambling off so much here, but just to that point, I wouldn't include Sergio Diaz there just yet, only because the man's had 2 games.
The man keeps getting injured too, so that's the worst sign, though.
Exactly.
That's my worry.
And it doesn't help. It doesn't help when the coach also destroys your confidence in this game as well. Whether there's external issues, whether there's external issues to that, other factors to that, those are yet to be, I guess, shown the light. But I don't know about you guys, but if that ever happened to me, I'd probably be in the worst attitude ever, unless I knew it was my fault.
Which is why I think Piojo wants to get a reaction out of him. Because what happens though, as a professional, I would assume that as a professional, getting subbed on and getting subbed off like that in such a quick manner, don't you take that as a disrespectful sign? Doesn't that hurt your ego and your pride?
I mean, I don't know about
how do you try?
Pride, but it's definitely disrespectful.
Yeah, and it hurts your confidence as well, right? Exactly. So what do you do? What do you do to try to build on that? You try to tear it up in practice.
But to me, that's telling me that Bill doesn't really have all that confidence in Sergio Diaz. So no matter what he does in training, knowing how Piojo is and kind of selecting the few players that he wants to play, it's gonna be almost next to a miracle to see if Sergio Diaz ever starts for Copa America this season.
But then again, is it Bill's fault that also he doesn't have the game rhythm? It's clear and evident that he doesn't have the game rhythm.
Because he doesn't play him.
I was just gonna say
he just barely came back from injury though.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So let him right out the match. Why do you have to take him out for Roger Martinez nonetheless?
Which we already know is
Yeah.
already a big issue in itself that people don't like him, so it doesn't
Exactly.
make the situation any
Roger wasn't
better.
the call. Okay, so if he takes out Sergio Diaz and puts Ibargüen,
That would have made a little bit more sense, but still, though, you just don't let him ride out the match.
I don't know. I mean, it's a tricky situation, but I wouldn't press the panic button on Sergio Diaz.
What did the
Is
people
what I'm
agree?
saying.
I just want to see more of him. I haven't seen
I think we all
anything
do.
of him.
We all do.
But it doesn't help that he'll just literally just put a dagger right through his heart.
And what if he never even comes out the
But-
same again? Because you know how like you get subbed out in that manner, just had an.
Then if he
attitude
doesn't
problem.
come out the same way, AJ, then I think that's poor from him.
In a sense.
But-
Because it has to show real testament of a player how you come out of this situation. You know, great players don't let these one little incidents change them from being great players. And that is my argument to this: is if we're gonna see the best of Sergio Diaz, is because we're gonna see the best of Sergio Diaz, not because boo hoo, the manager took me out, and now I'm gonna go cry and make a fit. Like, no, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna respond and I'm gonna show you the best, so that never happens again. Because I'm not gonna let myself be disrespected in that sense ever again. So this might be a learning curve for him. He's
Could
young.
be.
We know that he's young.
Hopefully,
So
yes. Mhm.
who knows? Maybe this might be the start of the better of the best of Sergio Diaz. We'll have to wait and see.
I really
you
hope
know?
so.
I
Because
really
now
hope
with
so too.
Benedetti
'Cause
out,
he's not been impressive ever since
Because-
like with his loan spells. He's not been impressive.
now that Benedetti's out, there's a little spot opening, and there's a lot of players up for grabs for that spot. So
Definitely.
happens.
But
Internal competition.
this was our foot up your. I did not expect it to take this long. I'm so sorry. We haven't gone to this Atlas game, but there was so many to just cover. But we did put a poll out on Twitter yesterday. It hasn't even finished, but this is what the stats show at the moment. We tweeted it out and said, is it hashtag Fuera Piojo time? 57% of you agreed, while 42% of you didn't. I had to make like 16 different burner accounts just to make it as even as possible on that no side. But 207 votes with 2 hours still left. If you guys hadn't voted already, make sure you guys go do. And yeah, apparently a lot of us were in that Fuera Piojo vibe. Although I would say though, if we were to put this in a game, maybe the international break was the perfect time to post this because America hadn't played. But do you think because we lost, that's why the numbers were so against them? I think that's got to play some role to it.
More likely.
probably.
Okay. All righty then. Well, enough of that. Trust me, you guys are going to get a lot more Fuera Piojo conversation from us, which I think will be an interesting thing going forward, whether or not Piojo is able to, ride the wave and maybe potentially lift the trophy at the end of the season. That's very optimistic of me, I know, but hey, something's got to fuel me, right? Something's got to keep me going.
Let's put a bet in. That'll keep you feel going.
That would definitely be, and you guys can see why Christian is our betting man. He will
we
tell you the over and the unders on whether or not America can get that, but that's going to be for later.
We can bet America right now $100 to win the title, and we probably make a good profit off of that. If we
we end up losing, and then we're all in pain.
We probably would actually. We're not that favorites.
Actually,
okay,
you know what?
Well,
after the podcast,
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. All right, gentlemen, we'll talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about America going up against Atlas this Saturday. That game is going to be live via TUDN, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. That game is going to be played at the Estadio Azteca at home, gentlemen, and no fans just yet. But the league is starting to open up little by little, game by game. Although I wouldn't expect the Estadio Azteca to be there just yet, especially with the cases and the numbers going up ridiculously over Mexico City. I was taking a look at them and I was like, Jesus, what is going on over there? But nevertheless, though, it's a game for America to try to get some confidence back. It's a game for where America can hopefully get the best out of some of these players and get yourself ready for a big one against Tigres. So, with that said, how do you think America is going to come into this one? I mean, mentally, how do you think they're going to prepare for this? How do you think Piojo is going to line himself up? Christian, give me your predicted starting 11 and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So just a quick update, I guess. Emanuel Aguilar, Sebastián Cáceres, they were hopefully supposed to be ready for the Leon game. Before that did not happen. I think Piojo just kind of wanted to give them extra week. So I'm gonna say the same thing again. We think, and we're 90% sure that Emanuel Aguilera and Sebastián Cáceres will be ready for Atlas. Can that change? Of course it can. But we're going to just make sure like they're included in this lineup. So With that being said, Oscar Jimenez in net, Jorge Sanchez, Emmanuel Aguilera, Sebastian Cáceres, Luis Fuentes. In the midfield, on one wing, you're going to have Leo Suarez. On the other wing, I guess in San Sebastian Cordova. In your midfield, Richard Sanchez and Giovanni Dos Santos. And then up top, Henry Viñas. There you go.
Okay, AJ, you like that formation?
Yeah, is that a 4-4-2? That's from what
4-4-2.
I'm getting.
Yep,
4-4-2.
4-4-2,
I like it. Solid
Diamond.
formation.
I think Viejo just kind of gave up on the CDM spot. So which in turn it does give us a little bit more on the ball, but just with this leaky defense is a little bit concerning. But hey, if it works out, it works out. Especially against a team like a team like Atlas. No offense to Atlas and no disrespect, but I think this is a game where you kind of need to win by a convincing point, not just a 1-0 win. I think you need to go out there and really pound it to them. You are a dirty man.
I just did not expect your wording. It really took me off guard.
We need to pound them. Yes, we need to pound them in the hardest way possible. We need to pound them.
You're right, though, Christian. I agree that this has to be a thrashing by America going forward.
He meant to say it needs to be a pounding.
You need to go out there and ram
them. If Dylan
them.
was here, he would say that we need to ram them. That's what Dylan would say.
That is what our beloved Cowboy. Shout out to Cowboy Dan, who's probably listening to this right now. But yeah, this is a game that we mentioned has to be a big scoreline. AJ, you always predict those big 3-0 victories. This has to be the game where that is not just a prediction. This needs to actually happen. Can it happen? Of course. I think this is the perfect game where you go out there and you get the game done. How worried, though, are we about Atlas and that potential reunion of Renato Ibarra down that right-hand wing this time against us?
It's going to be pretty interesting, actually, just seeing that because, for a player, well, it's just on loan at the moment, but I feel like he's just doing the same thing that he was in America. You're usually seeing him running on the wings, taking on a defender or two, try to get across. And I feel like, especially with some of the midfielders that Atlas do have, it could be some kind of threat to America, especially with the leaky defense that we do have. You got players like Victor Macora, Luciano Acosta, Ibarra, who are very capable of just attacking the midfield and defenders on their own and trying to get themselves a shot on goal. The forwards, I feel it's not really the big issue, just the midfield. I feel like with Atlas, that's really where the big issue is at for the most part. But other than that, I feel like this really isn't a match I feel like America shouldn't really be worrying too much about, in my opinion. I know considering that how our previous results have been, but I feel like this is a game where it's like we should just go out there and just destroy Atlas.
Christian?
I'm kind of the same boat. To the Renato comment, he doesn't look comfortable. I was watching a couple of games and I watched the match they had against Chivas. He didn't look comfortable at all. Now whether that would be Chivas' planning or whatnot, but he seems like he's still struggling to find the Renato Ibarra and the Renato Ibarra that we know that can be dangerous. But who's to say that he can't turn up against us, right? I mean, everyone does.
Especially if he's trying to win his spot back.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, most definitely.
So but I think definitely whoever is in that midfielder with next to Richard, whether it be Cordova, whether it be Gio, whoever it may be, I think that's where the real fight's gonna be because their midfield's a little kind of on the weaker side. So we need to just take over that and then from there let our game flow. And try to get this convincing win because we really need it heading into that Tigres match in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that one's going to be the big one for America. But you're right. I think this is the perfect chance for America to go out there and make a real confidence booster out of this game. A lot of players really need it, and you bag yourself a couple of goals, especially those forwards. We all know what La Liga is. Even with this new formation change. If you're coming in hot with not just in form, but in confidence, then you're looking like a pretty good team to go on and try to win it. So it's got to start here for America.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Alrighty, with that said, and I think we can safely say that America's game plan is simply take the game to Atlas and completely try to overrun them with as much chances as possible. Who is the one player that in that lineup that Christian just mentioned that needs to step up and have the biggest game of the night?
Leo Suarez.
Okay. I would say Gio for me. Gio would have to be my man. But AJ?
Venus. I just want to just see him continue to get on that streak of just scoring goals. He's got 6 goals, if I'm not mistaken, in this season. So it's just this thing. I just want him to just score as many goals as he possibly can. Especially we got these, and the league is just right around that corner. So it's like the time where Venus is doing Maravinas things and just bagging in goals for us. And I feel that he's gonna need a confidence booster to get us going into the league, especially since coming from last season where towards the end, that's when you start doing a lot of things. Now, I would like for him to repeat the same thing that he's been doing for us and just bagging in goals for us.
Interesting. All right, well, we'll see. One of these three guys needs to have a big game. If not, hopefully all of them do, because that would mean a very good night for America.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. So make sure you guys follow us over on Instagram and Twitter at EY Podcast. If for whatever reason you guys cannot watch this game, you guys can head over to our Twitter, follow it live, minute by minute, as we'll be live tweeting this whole matchup. All right, gentlemen, talk to me about your predictions before we wrap all things up. AJ, I'm going with you first, my man.
3-0.
3-0 right there, fast and straight to the point. And I agree with you, AJ. It has to be a 3-0 victory. Christian?
3-1.
3-1. And that is exactly more of a believable result, because we know that America in this state of mind cannot keep a clean sheet to save their own lives. But 3-1, again, another good result.
Actually, 4-1.
No, you can't take that. You're saying 3-1 because my prediction is going to be 4-1.
No, you just agree with AJ.
I'm gonna actually argue.
Right? Did he just say, okay, yes, AJ, I agree with you. It needs to be a 3-0?
Yeah, I said it needs to be a 3-0. Not, I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-0.
Okay, well, you didn't say that. It's 4-1. My prediction is 4-1. Got it down. Pencil it down, someone.
Alrighty then. Well, just not to repeat, I'm going with 5-1. Just because might as well just add another goal. Oh, it's not going to happen. I know, but now I have to say that because you've taken my prediction. And I'm not going to go back and say 3-1 because you just said that. So I have to say something that was obviously not said before.
I think
but it needs to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, this needs to be the game. This really needs to be the game.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, no disrespect to Atlas. I know we're coming into this one just completely disregarding them. No disrespect to you guys, but we just need to trample you guys, and then we'll get on our way back to hopefully better days.
Yeah, I mean, actually, they still probably can. Actually, this is a big game for them. Actually,
it is.
So we know that they're only 1 point off 12th place.
Exactly. So we know that they're coming into, but even then, America cannot fall to a 13th side
because they know they need to win. So
they need to get points. I don't think they necessarily need to come out.
They're not going to stay back like they normally. Come on, man. This is the game, man. 4-1. Let's go.
It has to be. It has to be.
And
all right, gentlemen. We've extended this podcast far enough. We've gone way past the time that we usually go to. But again, it was a very good discussion. So thank you very much. I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that was in the chat. Our good friends over from La Feria Nation saying hello. Good game on Saturday. See you guys in Liguilla. Obviously, coming over from the Lions Den podcast. Good game to you, my good sir. You guys had, honestly, you guys won that one fair and square, even though I will say the match was rigged somehow. How? I don't know, but it just was. But yeah, thank you to everyone in the chat. Our good friend Miss Caritores, Lost Boys, AP Junior, to every single one of you guys, Freddie, everyone. Thank you so much, and to everyone listening, thank you so much for making this podcast a possibility. And I know we didn't get the time to, but this episode is brought to you guys over by Foot Cult. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys head over to footcult.com, and you guys can check out some of the great jerseys, some of the great clothing, some of the great just accessories they have made for the typical Liga MX fan. So there you guys have it. Go over there, check it out. If you guys see anything that you guys like, make sure you guys use the discount code EEP at checkout to get 10% off. And again, that's discount code EEP at checkout to get 10% off. Gentlemen, it's been quite the evening. Hope you guys had a good one. Thank you again for coming out. Any last words before we sign it off? Just silence. That's how you guys know that these guys are completely done ranting. But alrighty then. Thank you guys again for joining out. Thank you to all of you guys watching. Thank you to all of you guys listening. Make sure you guys find the episode wherever it is. That's iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, anywhere and everywhere that you may find us. Thank you so much for your support. Leave a like on the video, and also leave a iTunes rating. That would really help the podcast a lot. So make sure you guys leave a iTunes rating or a Spotify rating, whatever it is may be. Just leave us a rating. Would really, really appreciate that and help us out in the long run. All right, gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful night. To everyone, again, thank you. Be safe. Wear your mask. We'll see you guys on the next episode. And as always, Arriba la América. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.